We're gonna talk all about going up to the college to get you a music degree. I get this question a lot, and it's all about getting a degree in music. Is it worth it? Should I have a backup plan? Like, should I have a plan B? Should I plan for failure? Believe it or not, many of the questions are very similar in nature or have to do with the same thing. So many things you're having problems with, I'm sorry, I hate to tell you, you're not original. A lot of people are having problems with it. But I talk about the music industry, how optimistic I am about it, how great it is right now, how it's totally changed, and that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. Here's what's up, man. So yeah, great question, and one I get a lot, and have gotten a lot over the years, and one I went through myself. I haven't really told kind of my backstory a lot, so I'll get into that here in just a second because that's actually relevant for this. I went through the same thing, and the question is, should I get a backup degree? Should I have a plan B if I wanna be a musician? You know, should I plan, basically, should I plan on failure? Should I plan that this isn't gonna work out, so I've got this plan B, and it would be cool if it did, but just in case, I've got this to fall back on. I hear this argument a lot, and I think a lot of it comes on from pressure from peers and from a perceived notion of what the music industry is, as well as parents. And parents are all, I mean, I'm a parent myself, bro. I've got, a 9-year-old and I've got a 7-year-old and then a newborn. And so I think about these things all of the time. Like, if they came asking the same question to me, what advice as a dad could I give them? And so, man, my biggest point that I want to make is there has never been a better time to be a musician or creative in the history of the world, period. Like, you have the world at your fingertips. The internet was a 100% game changer. When I was first starting out and going, right around the time going to college, right around 99, 2000, the internet was like just like a new baby. It wasn't like it is now. There weren't social networks. There weren't all these things, and the music industry was still somewhat intact, and that got all blown up with the advent of we had Napster, and you had Lars all pissed off because people are downloading and stealing things, and it's just been a culture shift. And what happened is it completely tore the music industry apart. And in some ways, they're still trying to put that back together. It puts a lot of the old cats not able to make money in the ways that they did, but all I see is opportunity in the fragments that happen with that. So what does that have to do with you and what you're wanting to do, right? Here's my take on it, man. I started out and I went and visited UNT. I looked at Berkeley. I looked at the bigger universities, and they were just it was gonna be, to me, I wanted to do music, but that was gonna be like too much of a hemorrhaging school loan for me to handle. So I picked a university that was where I was. Dr. John Wooten was there. Fantastic instructor. So I went more. I would encourage you that if you go the route of getting a music degree, because you're asking about, should I get a degree? Should I take time off and go gig? And I'll get there in just a second. Yes, on both counts. And so I picked my school more for who the teacher was, right? And I never planned on a backup plan because I always said, no, music's gonna be what I do. Now, that may mean that you have to work some jobs, some jobs in the course of getting there. I've worked a lot of jobs, but I've had one career path, and that has been to make a living doing music. A few years back, I quit altogether and had to take like a 7-year hiatus and revamp how I did music. But it wasn't that I was like starting a new career because that was my backup. No, I needed a job that could get some money to put a roof over my head, feed my family, until I could turn the ship around to how I wanted to do it, because the music industry was changing in such like a violent and quick fashion, right? So I don't think you should have a plan B. You're never gonna have a better time in your life, never have a better opportunity to get out there and hustle and to grind and to get out there and gig as much as you can and meet people as you will when you're fresh out of high school, just into college, those years. All right, I'm a huge advocate of higher education, and I think you should get higher education if you can, right? But there are times whenever it makes more sense. So let me tell you a little bit about like my journey through this whole thing, right? So I started out in Nowheresville, Mississippi, right? Hattiesburg, actually outside of Hattiesburg, close to a place called Summerall, Mississippi. And I lived like 15, 20 minutes from the nearest store, had to drive 45 minutes to go get to a drum teacher. There was no like music scene happening where I was. but I got it in my head that I love the drums and I want to do this. Like, this is what I want to do for a living. And so I just really headed in that direction. I started taking any gig I could, right? The first week I got my drum set, I'd been playing snare for like a year in the band setting in school. And tell you how humbling this was, I got into public school, I was homeschooled, and I got into public school, wanted to go into band, and so I had to be in I was in 8th grade, and they made me be in the 6th grade band. So while all my other friends went to 8th grade band, I had to go to remedial band in 6th grade and learn how to play, you know, like a flam and all of those things. So I was a late starter with this. But the week I got my drum set, my minister of music came to me and he said, "Hey man, our drummer quit, can you play?" And he's like, I'll coach you through this. So immediately I played 3 gigs that weekend, and then it was a 2 to 3 gigs every week that I was playing on a regular basis. Like, I was just taking anything that could. You reference having to play in bars to be able to get experience. You don't have to be, I mean, they're kind of part of what we do just because that's where entertainment, it's not even that. It's just where there seems to be a party, they serve alcohol, those are tend to be called bars. You could play a wedding and not call it a bar, but it still is the same type of atmosphere if they've got an open bar there. So I started doing that, and by the time I was 18, I knew, like, this is what I want to do, and my mom took me to Texas, and we visited UNT, and I debated it, and I said, you know what, let's go to USM. I had a great teacher, and Dr. Wooten was a great teacher. So I went there 3 semesters in, right? I'm going to college, I'm doing my thing, I'm gigging as much as I can, but I'm also working at Outback Steakhouse. My senior and junior year in high school, I worked 30 to 35 hours a week because I wanted to devote time to music. That's just where I was in my life with my family. I needed to work. And then when I got into college, I continued to do the same thing while I was still hustling and doing music, right? This is the time where you can put in those long hours, okay? And then 3 semesters in there, I got the opportunity to move to New Orleans. My drum teacher emailed, like back in the dial-up days where it, you know, makes the whatever that noise was. I remember getting online, looking at my email, and him being like, "There's an audition. I think you can do this. Come down here." I got the gig. They paid me like $550 a week. You might as well said, "Hey, we're gonna give you $3 million every week," because that's what it was to me. And that was when I was 19, that was my first bar to ever play in. And that was on Bourbon Street, like party capital of the world, right? And so I never had a backup plan. I went there and I just did the next logical thing. I hustled and hustled and hustled and did the next logical thing. I almost lost that gig because I didn't have groove. I couldn't make people dance, and this was a dance club. And so I had to figure that out for myself. I wound up keeping it. Then September 11th happened, and that tanked everything, right? Nobody was going out. So I got taken to 20% of the alcohol sales at the bar. We played from 4 to 9. They're drinking like Diet Cokes at that time, right? And so I wound up working two gigs every day, so 10 hours. I would start at 12:30 and get done at 9:30. And then I would go 9 or 10 hours, depending on the day. And then 2 days a week, I also did landscaping. But I was learning so much. That experience over 2.5 years playing at the Fame Store, and then I played at BBC for a while. I was house drummer there. And after 2.5 years, I felt like I had learned everything I could learn there. And I wanted to go back to school. So I had school, and then I took a break because I had a great opportunity. And then I went back to school, and I was married when I went back. I was 22 when I went back to school, 21. And I knew from a higher level, because I had been in the field, exactly what needed to happen. And so I really plugged in and was very specific about my learning. By the way, I was paying for college out of my own pocket. So I'm hustling on the side, working jobs, gigging as much as I can, and by then I had contacts in New Orleans, I had contacts in Hattiesburg, I had contacts in Jackson, I was playing with the Mississippi Symphony Orchestra on drum set. Like, I was doing a thing, but I was hustling. I was in about 9 different groups at one time. It was a hustle. I was just taking every opportunity. So there's never gonna be a better time for you to be able to take all of these opportunities and to just be able to live on ramen noodles and to be able to, to eat cheap and sleep on the floor and build your career. Now, if we're still doing that when you're 35, maybe we should rethink things, right? But that's not the case. Like, you're young, you got a lot of energy, you got a lot of passion, go chase those things. Go do that. Don't plan on failure from the beginning, okay? You will always have time to reboot and go do a job if you want to do that, like to reboot and find another passion. Like, music's just not going to happen. But for right now, it takes all of your energy to be able to make this happen. Now, this is the best time ever to be a musician. The internet changed all of that. If you'd have asked me, hey, Steven, do you think that you will be, online teaching lessons? I mean, when I was coming up, first started playing, like that wasn't even a thing. I would have been like, what is this thing you're speaking of, the internet, I never thought that. It's changing very quickly. So you have to keep your goals in line with the changing market. If you say, hey, I want to go be a studio player, well, I got news for you. That area of the music industry is drying up. Used to, like, they had phones in the studios and you would call and get your messages and they'd be like, you're out on session at 5 o'clock. From there, you need to go to a 9. Like, they would just stack the sessions every day. That's not the way it is. A lot of hits now are being recorded in home studios. They're being farmed out. And so the days of being like a full-time studio musician, that's all different. Touring is different these days. Tours look different. But if you will look at the industry, and you will look at how you can contribute to the industry, or maybe you and a bunch of buddies get together and you make a killer band, Snarky Puppy, that band came together while a lot of them were in school, and other bands are, and I don't know their history, but from what I understand, that's where they came together, and a lot of other great groups came together in college. College is a time to mingle, it's a time to find yourself, it's a time to really hone what you want to do for your life, but don't plan on a backup on a B game yet. Like, you're way too young to do that. Now, with parents, I had to show my parents that, like, I can do this. I can do. So I was practicing, had a regular practice routine. I was taking every gig I could get. They saw me getting better, so that whenever I went to them and said, hey, I think I can do this for a living, they were like, yeah, we actually think you can too. Because they had seen me improve and progress and be passionate about it. So you just have to be realistic about what you want to do. If you want to be, on a chart-topping, player behind a chart-topping artist and tour the world, those slots, they're few and far between. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm just saying they're few and far between and getting fewer. But if we look at the recording industry and how it's splintered, in the music industry and how it's splintered, and we can look at it from a new viewpoint, there are endless opportunities. I tell everyone every day, I've never been more optimistic about the music industry. It's been put back in the hands of the creators, and that's so awesome. So I would encourage you, look at school. If that looks like the next logical step, go do that. But if you have an opportunity to get out and work some and get some on the ground, in the trenches experience, go do that. But do not move to a big city and sit around and then after 2 years be like, well, I gave it a try. No, you gotta hustle. Like, you gotta be in people's faces, handing out cards, taking people to lunch, like getting mentors, getting on as many, taking everything that comes in there. You really gotta hustle to make this thing work, because there are other guys and other ladies that are hungry to do this, and there's a lot of competition out there. You asked about moving to a bigger city. You said you lived close to Toronto. I started in the middle of Mississippi, and I was playing everything: stage shows, variety shows, cover bands, big band, whatever it took. I was gonna jump in there. If that seems logical, then do that. But some big cities, the cost of living is so high that you shoot yourself in the foot before you ever start, because you don't have to start there. My thing is, I would rather be the big fish in a small pond than a small fish in a big pond. You move to somewhere like New York or LA, there are a lot of players. I'm in Nashville. There is some stiff competition, and almost everybody you come across, like, they're on your level, right? I mean, there's not a lot of slouches that are making a living doing this now, right? And so you really have to work on that and look at it just step by step. You said you talked to your mom about playing in bars, and that's part of. It doesn't mean you have to participate in this, all right? And a little background, my dad was a pastor. And so you want to talk about nervous going to him, and I was like, so I just landed a gig in a bar at Party Capital of the U.S., on Bourbon Street. And I said, are you cool with me doing this? Is this going to be embarrassing to you? Is this going to, are you cool? He's like, no, I think it's great. He said, I think you have character. And if you go in there, that's not going to change your character. It's going to amplify that. If you go into a setting like that, it's going to amplify whatever's already there. I haven't seen a lot of people drop down there. I've seen them have those tendencies, and all of a sudden it just amplifies what was there. But good people are good people. And so if you've got good tendencies, you've been raised well, that environment is going to just kind of circulate around you as long as you watch your P's and your Q's, which is what I had to do. I was down there for 3 years, and finally I was like, you know what? I got to get out of here, because this is not the environment I want to spend my whole life in. And but man, I can't encourage you enough. Like, don't get a plan B right now. Be smart about things. The one thing I could tell you is if you go to school, if you go to college, and I suggest you should, man. If there's not a next logical step and you're like, I want to do music, go to school, get in school, get your education. But while you're there, something that I wish I would have done is I wish I would have taken some business classes. I had a buddy who actually majored in business and minored in music and spent just as much time practicing. And now he plays jazz full time now. Darian's an amazing player and I got utmost respect for him, but he ran his playing like a business. And so he was able to watch his P's and Q's. He was able to cut corners where he needed to save what he needed to set goals, to forecast his, what he felt his profits would be. And so if I could advise you to do anything and you want to minor in something, minor in business, because that's really going to help you. I spend probably 2 to 3 hours of my day every day now, not on like, not on actually working in my business. I actually spend 2 or 3 hours a day working on my business, working on myself, reading books, taking classes, really trying to become a better businessman so that I can serve people better. And so having some business sense is very advisable. But get out there and make opportunities. Your senior year, get out there and play in as many situations as you can. Put a group together. Go start booking things. Plan free parties. Do whatever you can do to get out there and start playing, and then really set some goals and look at the music market and see how it is. But I'm here to tell you, man, don't plan on failure from the front. If you feel like you can do this, then go do it. Plan to be successful with it and work your butt off. And then, if it doesn't happen, you always have time to reboot. You're really, really, really young, right? It's a lot harder for me at 36 to go reboot. Right? But I did it. Music wasn't going how I wanted to. I moved here. I was working 3 jobs. I was gigging, and some months it was awesome. Some months I was playing in front of 20,000 people. Some months I was playing, this bowling alley that was a batting cages that had a bar attached to it that like your weird uncle that you never talked to hung out and was like skeezy. Like that was the situation. I was like, you know what? This is not what's happening for me. So I rebooted, and that's whenever I got with the group I was with, Lovers and Liars, and we got signed to Universal Records. But I was hustling on the side, working full-time as a personal trainer and going out on the weekends with them just for fun because it was an experience. And then I took the buyout from Universal Records after we got dropped after a year, and so I took a buyout from the band and I started this business, right? It was just, all I do is I look at the next logical move. What can I do that's going to be an advantageous move for my career? Because if you go in as a musician, it's a career. So I couldn't be more excited for you. Just buckle down, really work on your playing, be smart about it, get as educated as you can, take business courses, take music classes, get with a good teacher, hustle, network, move to a larger city if you need to, all of those things. But I'm here to tell you, man, I don't think you should plan on a plan B. I think you need to just get to it. I think if you've got good character, you don't need to worry about this. Be a good person. That's going to take you a long way. And get out there and hustle. There's never, ever, ever been a better time to be a musician, ever, period, in the history of the world. Your fans are right at your fingertips. You just got to go find them, okay? So it's up to you, man. You can chart your own course, but I'm excited to hear about it. Let me know whenever you kind of make a decision if you're going to go to school or what, and I'm always here if you've got questions.